Go.
I wanted to welcome everybody to Transaction Point training this evening, and thanks for coming at 6 o'clock in the evening. I know it's late for everybody. So we're going to talk about what Transaction Point is. So I'm going to throw a question out there. Does anybody want to take a guess at what Transaction Point's used for?
Uploading your documents.
Huh?
Uploading your documents.
Uploading your documents. So actually, Transaction Point, if you worked at a firm where you gathered all your documents, put them in a folder, and took them to someone and said, here's my deal, and they would go through the papers, well, here you upload your documents into Transaction Point, and it makes it a paperless document storage system. When we have an audit on our files by the state of Illinois, the auditor is looking at files in Transaction Point. So they have to be very accurate, because if you fail an audit, there's a possibility your firm could be closed or shut down by the state. That's why the documents were so particular, and we keep sending them back to agents for corrections. It's also used as a data storage for managing brokers. Tammy will go in and look at Transaction Point. How many listings do we have? How many deals pending? Closed for the month. So what an agent needs to do, the first thing you need to do when you get a listing is immediately send the listing agreement to the managing broker. If you wait until the deal is closed, the managing broker of this office and the corporate office has no way of knowing that deal even exists. How can we possibly make an accurate projection? And we still have a few people here submitting listing agreements the day before closing. And we've got to streamline that and get you submitting your listing agreements immediately. This system, here's the most important part of the system. This is where your commission check is started. The transaction coordinator is going to generate what's called a facing sheet, and that it gives you the gross commission, the big number before any deductions. That's what's called a facing sheet. Once that's generated, another department creates a commission disbursement authorization with more detail and the deductions taken out. So anyway, those are the main things that Transaction Point is used for, and what we're trying to do in the name of this program, Tammy and I call it Get You Paid Faster. The faster we process things here and they're correct, and then send the files to California, it actually expedites you getting paid, right? So we're going to now, if anybody brought their computers, you're welcome to try this yourself. How many people here do not know how to log in to Transaction Point? Okay, so we have a few people. You have a handout which sort of looks like this, how to log in. We all have the same login on the first line. So my login is Deann Gladwell, one word, AGT for agent. So we all have the same login, first, last name, agent. Your password's created when you do your onboarding, or some system it's generated, you'll have it, but you should have it when you start here. Did you get I don't remember. Password, Ken? Okay. So you can see us later, and we'll check on that for you, so you can make sure you can log in their account. Okay.
Deann, is that the password that we were assigned to from the time we joined Carrington? Possibly.
I honestly don't remember, because it's been so long since I signed up. So I can log in. I'm going to log in My Fuel Center actually to get into Transaction Point. I sort of jumped ahead. Everything's driven now out of My Fuel Center and the company's moving towards that. So I'm in My Fuel Center. This login is your Carrington email login. Transaction Point. So now My Fuel Center actually I only wrote this a month ago. Now this is obsolete because you can go right in here at My Fuel Center. That's how fast our company moves. Right. So we're going to look at pipeline. I'm logged in as an agent. Here you go. As an agent, you are going to work in the Documents tab. I'm going to click on Documents. The first blue box, property address. All you need is the house number. Search. Next blue box, select a transaction. This is the transaction with the house number I put in. Now we have all of the documents that I have uploaded into Transaction Point for this deal. This particular deal is a Nation Star Home Search auction deal. And we're going to jump around, but if you would look at the checklist that Maria handed out, okay, find one, they're labeled at the top, that matches Nation Star Home Search Auction. It's Nation Star at the top, Transaction Point Checklist. So the transaction coordinator here needs everyone to use the Transaction Point Checklist. So here's how it's going to work. What we already talked about, when you get a listing agreement, this tells you who to send it to. Now things change so fast. Tammy Powell is going to be Deann. So now we're going to have to update these. The point being, you send your listing agreement to the managing broker, because in the state of Illinois, the managing broker has to sign all listing agreements. They're not in compliance if you put an unsigned listing agreement in Transaction Point, okay? So they only go to the managing broker. You don't upload it into Transaction Point, so we have darkened space here. Listing addendums. For those of you who handle a lot of AltaSource files, is it Altisource or AltaSource? It's my Texas accent running there. I think it's Altisource here. But anyway, Altisource will send you a lot of addendums. Listing addendums, send them to the managing broker. Managing broker signs them. The managing broker takes care of it for you. You don't do anything with it, upload it. So these are blanked out. Now, so we're into this deal that we're looking at on the computer. If this were my file, and it is, and I'm an agent, I either check and put the date of every document up here on this list. Now I know what is owed to the transaction coordinator / compliance department. So I want everybody to use this list. After the last training class we had, agents went home and they were sending me stuff 2 and 3 times after I taught them how to upload stuff. So you only need to put documents in once, but please use the checklist. Okay, and then you'll know what you sent me, because I'm still getting way too many emails as a transaction coordinator. What documents are in the file? What do I need? Can you check it for me? Well, you can log in and look at it. So we're trying to cut that piece out for the transaction coordinator because it's right here in your My Fuel Center. Okay. Let's look at another checklist. Buyer non-REO, so you represent a buyer. How many MLS sheets does a transaction coordinator need? Does a transaction coordinator need MLS new, MLS pending, and MLS closed? Because that's what you're all sending me. So if you're taking the time to send me 3 MLS sheets, I don't need them. So save yourself some time, go over this checklist. I think there's only one type of transaction that requires an MLS close, so I only need 1 sheet. Does everyone in here know how to create a PDF document from MLS on your listing and save it into your file or send it to somebody? Because some people I see are printing the MLS, scanning it, saving it, and then sending it to me, and that is a lot more of your time. So if anybody doesn't know how to do that, send me an email, and I'll be happy to teach you when the class is over or sometime next week. All right, so there are 2 ways to get documents in a transaction point. We just looked at the first one. Well, you're gonna log in, I'm gonna sit down. We're logged into this transaction right now. I need to send a document. I'm gonna click upload document. What's the document name? Let's say I'm sending HUD final. Browse. And I'll find something. There's a document up there. So let's upload this document. Hit the upload button. This is in transaction point. All right. The best way to put your documents safely into transaction point is to upload them yourself. When you upload them, they are there. When you send emails to the transaction coordinator, and one deal can have, I would say, 15 to 30 emails. When you get into deals that require a lot of documents, like on a CMS deal, you have addendum A, addendum B, you have an ABA, you have the purchase agreement, the bank addendum. I can keep going down the list. So the best way is to put them in yourself. When you send me emails, what you have to realize, at some points during the month, I receive up to 190 emails a day. I'm a transaction coordinator handling files for 79 agents. So, if you send an email and say, here's a listing agreement, here are my disclosures, oh, here's the FHA addendum, oh, and a lot of people piecemeal documents in, and then it's like, well, I sent it to the transaction coordinator. The TC is pretty accurate at taking documents from the email and putting them into your account. But imagine, have you ever been in your email and you hit the delete button and it didn't look like it worked, and then whoops, the one underneath it's gone. That's not a safe or surefire way to send documents by sending me emails. And then understand that the transaction coordinator's busy. I got an email from an agent yesterday. Well, you haven't opened this file. I sent it to you 2 hours ago. Well, I try to read the emails as they come in, but normally the transaction coordinator is working. I usually work about 2 days behind. It is rare that I have no emails in my inbox. I also received an email that says I sent this to you 6 hours ago. And they wanted a CBA on a file. Well, I didn't have the file open because I'm 2 days behind. So you gotta give the TC at least 24 to 48 hours notice. I wish I worked instantly. I did when I was an agent. It was wonderful. You sit there and go, oh, somebody just sent me an email. Well, when you have over 200 in your inbox, it's hard to see you know, be a little patient, but if you do need something quickly, it can happen. You know, we understand that things happen and maybe everything wasn't uploaded, but just have a little patience. Okay, we already really talked about using checklists. Does everyone understand the difference in a facing sheet and a CDA? Because some people here always say, I gotta have a CDA on every deal. You know what that tells me? Because I know what a CDA is. The title company on every closing you have is writing one check to Carrington and one check to you because you gave them the commission breakdown and you're getting paid at the table on every single deal. Now I want to see by a show of hands, because I'm curious, I know my own personal experience, how many people here have been paid at closing by the title company and you just sent Carrington the remainder of the check and went home and put it in the bank on every single deal you've done? No? Right, because my experience is the title companies in Illinois are not cooperative. I've asked for checks to be cut. I've taken in a CDA which has all the breakdown, how much I get, how much Carrington gets. They say, we're not cutting extra checks for you. And I said, would you if I'd given this to you 3 days ago? No, we're not gonna do that. One title company told me, we don't have an agreement with your company. I'd never even heard of this title company before. So, if you ask for a CDA, you're telling the transaction coordinator, I am going to get a check at the closing table when this closes. So, if that's not happening on your deals, you don't need a CDA. You only need a facing sheet. Facing sheet, everybody knows what a broker settlement statement is. You're the listing agent, the attorney calls you, asks you for a broker settlement statement, what's a list side commission, what's a sell side commission. You only need a facing sheet. So a CDA is if you can convince the title company to write you a check. If anyone is successful at that, please let me know because I want to know how they did it. I have never received a check. I guess you could if you made a big scene there, I don't know.
They give you a check if it's not governmental entities, and it depends on the title company.
I can't hear because of that.
They do give a check if it's not a governmental entity, that's the seller, and it depends on the title company.
Yeah.
Chicago Title almost never will give it to you. First American may give it to you. Attorney Title will give it to you.
Who was that?
Attorney.
Attorney title. Okay, so attorney title will do it, Chicago title won't. American title sometimes, there you go. You can always try it. But anyway, the point is, please don't ask the transaction coordinator for a CDA on every single deal because you're asking for 3 different people in our system to do more work for something that's not needed, right? So that's a difference. You're always gonna need a facing sheet. So here's how transaction point works as a transaction coordinator. You're gonna send in a listing agreement as soon as you list a property. As soon as your property's under contract and you have a purchase agreement, really you should have every document you need in transaction point. What else is needed? You may have a closing extension later, not a big deal. Obviously the HUD's not in there, but we have every document we need. Disclosures, FHA or VA amendment, everything in there. Way ahead of closing when you have the purchase agreement if you upload your documents or send them in. Because when your purchase agreement comes in and you've sent me the listing agreement, I ordered the facing sheet that day. So if you're doing the workflow correctly, the facing sheet that's needed by your attorney, if you're the listing agent, not an REO, is gonna be in there 3 weeks ahead of time. Today, well, yesterday at 10:30 in the morning, an agent sent me every single paper needed for the file and said, I've gotta have a CDA today too. You've got everything you need. Well, I didn't even have a file open in Transaction Point. I mean, I had an email with everything I need. And it takes a while because I have to go through every single document in the file and make sure it's compliant, it's everything signed. So, the key to Carrington, just send us your papers when you get them. If you list a house, don't wait 2 months to send us the listing agreement. Then you won't ever be nervous if you're last, oh my gosh, I don't have a facing sheet, I don't have a broker settlement statement. Because it's gonna be in there weeks ahead of time. Okay? Any questions so far? No? Is it easy?
I do have a question.
Okay.
It's hard, and I'll show you this, it's hard to upload documents to the press website. And I wanted to know if there's a link that we can, another application, because sometimes the documents are too large, and I have to use my Gmail account, because they will not go through.
Documents are too large, so you have put, for example, every document pertaining to a file in one scan and you're trying to upload?
Not everything was quite a large document, maybe a listing agreement and a couple of addendums. And it's
Email.
hard.
I think she's referring to email, not uploading.
Yeah, the Carrington email, yes. When I'm
Oh,
trying to
email,
upload.
I'm sorry, I thought
Yeah.
you said you couldn't upload
Yeah.
in Transaction.
But I haven't had any problems yet. I've done Transaction Point. I haven't had any problems yet uploading those documents. And I don't understand why. that
Has
problem-
anyone else had a problem with Carrington email saying this document's too large? We can't, no?
I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
I have no idea. Did
Maybe
you
the
turn it
pix, you have to decrease the pixel size.
on? Sometimes.
Maybe her size is too large.
That may be irrelevant.
Yeah, I don't know, since no one else is having that problem, other
The
than
scanners not
split it
separate.
into 2 packages if you need to, but now you know how to put them in a Transaction Point, and maybe you don't need to send a file that large, so that may alleviate that issue
I'll
for
try
you.
and see.
Mm-hmm. Marilyn?
If, this is just a question of a document that might be needed, if something happened to a property and they're going to reduce the price, what document do we need for Transaction Point that says that? Will an addendum do it, or do we have to redo the contract?
Well, let's back up. What type of property, bank home
REO.
property, an REO property is a price reduction?
Yes.
Listing
After the
addendum.
contract.
Oh, after the
It's-
contract?
We're ready to close.
You should ask the asset manager for a listing addendum.
Okay, that's
Okay.
enough.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And you know, sometimes AltaSource will just email it to you. We've dropped the price $50,000, and the TC actually just copies the email. That's all you need. They don't even sign it or do a formalized document for listing extensions, closing date extensions. And that email's fine. We'll just copy it into and make a PDF file and upload it for you.
Because
So
it changes, does that not change the commission?
the listing amount?
No, not the listing, it's a contract, we're ready to close.
Okay,
But in walkthrough, we notice damage.
okay. Oh,
So-
the purchase price is gonna
Right.
change. Yes, and addendum.
Okay, yeah.
And they should give that to you, and you can ask the REO attorney for that, if it's Denali premium, because I have seen those come through.
I just didn't
Absolutely.
know if I needed a contract change or.
No, ask Denali for it. If Denali says you can draft it, or whomever your title company or closing attorney is, say, can I draft this and get it signed? And also, when you have something that's a little strange, let the TC know about it. The purchase price on this changed. Yeah, you know, we can sit there and read and try to figure out what's different here, but if you just write a little note. And that brings me to another point. I've sent everybody an email, for those of you who have been here longer than a couple of months, and I said, if you have something really important you want me to look at and work on, you need to put something in the subject line. I said, put purple monkeys or something. Only one person got it, and he's getting really good service. He puts purple monkeys eating Skittles or something, and I'm, oh. Tammy puts Kentucky, and I'm like, oh, I better look at that. My whole inbox is full of emails with addresses. And sometimes, the way you read your email inbox, I can't even see that it says HUD out here. So and certainly when you have a HUD, please make up something to put in the subject line to distinguish so I can pull that out and work on it. We work on HUDs first. That gets first service in the TC line of emails. But you should see my inbox. It's just addresses. I have no clue what it is. So, but Kentucky's working for Tammy, so think of something if you don't like purple monkeys. And that is a technique I actually learned when I was working at Nation Star, and usually there I had 300 to 450 emails. And I would tell agents, put this in the subject line, because when we hang up, I'll get about 50 more emails in 5 minutes, so I will see what you're sending me. That's how to flag something, okay? So I wasn't making that up or even trying to be funny when I sent that out, but not one person did it, except a school teacher. He got it. All right? So that's gonna help me out a lot. Let's, instead of listening to me talk, now we're going to play a game. The game's called You Are the Transaction Coordinator. I'm going to show you how fun it is to be a transaction coordinator. The point of playing the game we're going to play is, as an agent, please review your documents before you send them to the transaction coordinator. You know why? So you send me a whole package that's missing one initial on the radon disclosures. Now, I told you I worked 2 days behind, right? So you sent this to me 2 days ago, I see it today. I have to send an email back to you. I need an initial in the radon form. You're not real responsive. You send it back to me in 3 days. I'm 2 days behind. Do you see how one initial can cause a 7-day delay on your file? And then I send it to California. What if they say the date's missing on this radon form? Now I ask you, because I see it 2 days after California, now we're at 14-day delay. Every mistake, you would not believe how long it delays the file. I try to work fast in that. I'm using 2 days as an average, 3 days that I'm caught up. So we're going to play You Are the Transaction Coordinator. So everyone has this package. Okay. So now let's all look at, this is a lead-based paint agreement for multi-source, which should be very familiar to you that work multi-source deals. So, I want you to review this document, which the transaction coordinator does. There are 2 mistakes on this document. I'll give you a hint. So if you figure out what it is, sit there quietly until almost everybody's kind of figured this out. Why would this not pass compliance? And I expect the AltaSource junkies to get this immediately because they see these over and over.